all the way to the Euphrates in Iraq. That is going to be the kingdom. That is good. You know why? Because God said to Abraham, everywhere you put your feet, I'll give it to you. So Abraham walked that territory. He went all the way to Egypt. God's got to give it to his people. He came out of the land of Iraq, which was that time the land of Chaldea. So God's got to give it to his people. So in the millennial reign, my friend, oh, you folks that think the Jews only get a little piece of property, this thing's going to get huge. My voice is changing. It's going to be, do you know why it's going to be huge? Because do you know how many millions of people are going to be living here? You couldn't live in this. You're going to have to expand it all the way from the Euphrates to the Nile River. Now, one of the other things that's going to take place has to be with Jerusalem. The high places, the Bible says, will be brought low, and there will be an actual temple that will be here. Now, I'm not going to give you the description of the temple because I'm telling you, unless I've got pictures, maps, charts, and models, it is not going to make any sense to you at all. But here's what I'm going to share with you that I want you to understand. That it talks about how the 12 tribes are going to take the land. Now, how in the world can you have 12 tribes when people don't even know what tribe they're with? In the book of Revelation, here's what it says. I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000, all the tribes of the children of Israel. So there's 12,000 Jewish men from 12 tribes sealed with the seal of God during the tribulation period. That makes a grand total of 144,000, which is 12,000 men from 12 different tribes. And later on, first of all, they're seen on earth in the beginning of the tribulation. Later on, about mid-trib, they are seen in heaven worshiping the Lamb. So they've been raptured up. They've been caught up, just like the church has, into the presence of God. Now, here's the problem. Number one, Israel is no longer divided in tribal regions. It's just one nation. Problem number two, Israel has many Jews that are not believers in the Torah or the Scriptures, so how can God seal people that are unbelievers? They would have to be a believer. Number three, in Israel, people do not know what tribe they are with. Now, I've heard people say that, but that's true, but it's not true. Let me give you an example. If you are Kohen, Kohanim, Kohan, any of that particular name, that is the name of the priest. You can guarantee that if you can trace a Jewish lineage back with that name through your mother, your family were priests here at the temple in Jerusalem. If you were a Levine, a Levi, or Levi, or any of that combination, then that shows you that you were of the tribe of Levi, because that name has been kept all through the centuries. Now, if you are Judah, if you happen to have the name Judah, you automatically know. Now, I'm talking about not recently, but if you can trace your lineage back through a Jewish mother for centuries, you were from the tribe of Judah. So people might be able to identify who their family was with based on a name that has been carried on for generations and generations. However, then how do you figure out Benjamin, Asher? How do you figure out Gad? So, you know, they're Jewish people, but how do you know what tribe they're with? Well, let's talk about this for just a minute. The research on the 10 lost tribes. The Assyrians came in, took 10 tribes captive, and they actually ended up scattered around the world. But where did they go? Rabbi Avichal used a 1,200-year-old text commenting on the Song of Solomon from the Midrash, and it says that the redemption of the 10 tribes of Israel precedes the redemption of the rest of the Jewish people, meaning he believed, or this writer believed, in the 1,200-year-old text, that the Jewish people would be able to be identified by their tribes prior to the return of the Messiah. Now, here is where the story gets interesting. Everybody knows about Afghanistan, right? What you may not know about Pakistan and Afghanistan is the following. In Afghanistan, there is a tribe, huge tribe numbering 20 million people, called the Pashtun tribe. And they are from Kabul. They live in Kabul, and they go all the way to the area called the Indus River. In 60 tribes among the Pashtun tribes in Afghanistan, there are many, many sub-tribes. In fact, there's 12 million that live in Pakistan. And the name, listen to this, the name Pashtun can come out of the Hebrew word pasht, which means to be scattered. They were scattered, all right? Now, here's the thing that's interesting. Some of them grow long hair on the sides of their face, just like the Orthodox Jews. Some of them have fringes on their garments, just like the Orthodox Jews. Some circumcise their sons on the 8th day, just like Orthodox Jews. Some marry under a large canopy like Jewish people do. Israel Today magazine in the year 2001 gave a report, and here's what it said. The memoirs of Abraham Benjamin, a Jew from Afghanistan, he wrote that some of the Pashtun believe the Pashtun believe that according to ancient tradition, they are of the tribe of Ephraim. An Afghan Jew recalls a Pashtun telling him that they had once been Jews, and when the Messiah returns, they would be Jews again. Now, we're talking about these tribes that are now Islamic living in Afghanistan and in Pakistan. So let me give you a little bit of history. Maybe we'll throw some maps or some pictures up if we can find them for this. The Afghan royal family, a book was written in 1635. And in 1635, it said the Afghan family were from the tribe of Benjamin of the southern kingdom. Now, the 10 tribes were scattered, but Judah and Benjamin lived in this area and remained, okay? The area that we're in now. The tradition was that King Saul had a son by the name of Jeremiah, and his son was called Afghana. Did you get that? King Saul's son, Jeremiah, and he had a son by the name of Afghana. Afghana was raised by David. Afghana was then, after David's death, raised by Solomon in Solomon's court. He eventually, now this is a book from 1635 that was getting information, that's where it came from. He eventually went to the area now called Afghanistan. 400 years after Solomon, the family fled to Gur in Afghanistan and converted to Islam in the year 622 for protection, to keep from, from death. And the leader's name at that time was called Kish, which happens to be Saul's Hebrew name. Saul, son of Kish. They changed the name to Arab al-Rashad, and it was changed after they became Muslims. And there was a large Jewish community that was in that area until 1992 because they began to flee because of the rise of the Taliban. And there are cemeteries, this is interesting, there are cemeteries in that part of the country that they've discovered from the 7th to the 12th century that have Hebrew/Persian writing on the graves. Oh, everybody give me a wow. Come on, wow. All right, now, the various names of the tribes in both Afghanistan and Pakistan appear to have a Hebraic link. For example, in the past, some have named their male children Israel. Several of the tribal names have a similar counterpart with the name of the Hebrew tribes. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the tribal name and the Hebrew counterpart. Here we go. Counterpart. The tribal name, Rabbani, is similar to Reuben. This is in Pakistan now, in Afghanistan. Ashari is similar to Asher. Gadon, Gad, all right. Musai is Moses. Oh, Lord. The name Yusuf is very common. You have the names Yusuf Za'i, Yusuf Uzi, Yusuf Zad, and that translates already to the children of Joseph. Now, Ephraim, they say they're descendants of Ephraim, right? Who was Ephraim? A son of Joseph. Now, the point I'm saying here is that in the area of Afghanistan, here's another thing. In Kandahar, Afghanistan, a large stone has been covered up for centuries. It was discovered, and the writing was thought to be some form of Aramaic. In Pakistan, another stone was found in the Aramaic script of the Old Hebrew language, the same Hebrew used in the time of the Babylonian captivity. The script was believed to be, clean your ears out, 2,300 years old. Here's the point. Is this not I think I may have to get sidetracked here on something. Little rabbit trail. Think about this. Let's look at this, and I'm kind of like, the old issue of just black and white, and you're just blunt, and it's either this or that. You know the expression we use. Let me tell you something that's interesting. If, when the Assyrians came, they decided to take the Jewish people, and the Jewish people were scattered to these nations, then the Jewish people would have went to the east, which would have eventually been the area of Afghanistan and Pakistan. They would remain with their Jewish traditions until the time of Islam, when many of them had to convert. However, today, there's even some places, some of the villages, they have little things on the right side of their door like charms. Now, where does that come from? That comes from the mezuzah. I don't even have time to share with you people that have actually gone to that part of the country and done some research and said it is absolutely incredible that these tribal people living in this area are actually have Jewish connections. Everything they do is so similar to Jews because you know why? Because in the Arab world, everything is tradition. They're very strong in tradition. Everything is handed down from father to son, and that's the way you do it in the tribal areas. Now, think about this. Bin Laden, the terrorist, rises up out of what country? Afghanistan. Taliban rises up out of what country? Afghanistan. War on terror is centered where? Do you understand that when you have Afghanistan and Pakistan, but let's specifically say Afghanistan, when you have these individuals and the Taliban has been there, it is almost impossible security-wise to allow those people to come to Israel because Israel would be afraid that they would be